Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. It's Thursday. Thirsty Thursday! Are you here? Who's in the house? Who's here to say hello, good afternoon, etc.? There's our Denise, there's our Alice. So glad you're here. You know, we've been talking all this week about emotions, and I've got a doozy for you. It's coming up, and we're going to wrap the whole week up with this big show today. So if the word anxiety has ever entered your vocabulary, I'm here for it. I'm here for you. Kathy, Teresa, hello. Anyway, so we'll be talking about that because, you know, it is a complex emotion to say the very least. And I think it's something that we just need to all address. I know I've dealt with it in the past. Some people deal with it on a continuous basis. And there are things that we can do about anxiety. And so I want to talk about that today because it's a biggie. All right, so that's one thing. Two things is that we are coming to the end of our skincare, the Balanced Cleanser. Boy, do I love this stuff. You know that I love this stuff. I use it all the time. We have it on a BOGO. A BOGO. Buy one, get one. Can't beat that. And this cleanser, the lavender smell, the clean product, that ingredients that are in here is just, it cleanses deeply into your skin. It's incredible. You can find out more about this great product at savingdinner.com/BOGO, because if you buy one, we are going to give you one free. And lest you think, oh my gosh, there's not much in there. There's a ton in here. This one little thing lasts way more than a month for me. You don't need a ton. Tanya's in the house. Lizzie, Martha, hello. I'm glad you're here. Catherine also popping by. Good to have you. Also, our Crave Water just came. Crave Water. Listen, lemonade, y'all, lemonade. And this is L-glutamine with a little bit of citric acid, a little MCT oil, and a touch of stevia. And you know why? Because everybody loves lemonade. Nobody doesn't. But I don't like artificial flavorings. I don't like artificial colors. I don't like artificial sweeteners, especially. I like a little bit of stevia. I don't want an aftertaste, by the way. There is none. I don't like it too sweet. It's not. And it's refreshing. It mixes well. That's what the MCT oil is all about, is to distribute the product throughout your 14 or 16 ounces. Here's the deal. This is what you do. You mix up a bottle of Crave Water. Easy. 14, 16 ounces. Drop 4 grams of this Crave Water in there. That's 4 grams of L-glutamine. 100% pure L-glutamine with a little bit of flavor in it. Shake it up and drink it down. That crushes cravings like that. I'm dead serious about this. If you struggle with cravings, what are you waiting for? Go get your Crave Water. You can find it at savingdinner.com/Crave Water. That's where we hide that one. Also, we've got free shipping for the lower 48. You know, just have to spend $300, and I'm happy to help you out because you are supporting a woman-owned business. And a bunch of us women who run this joint, you know, we really appreciate it. Let's just say that. Thank you so much for your support. And we know you have other options of where you're going to go for your supplements, but you're here and we appreciate that. And that's how we say thank you. One of the ways that we say thank you. Also, Full Bloom is on the way, y'all. It's coming. Full Bloom is going to be here, I don't know how many days, 9 days? I'm not kidding. It is going to be here before you know it. You know what it's about? Being more than enough. Because we all have the right to live a life of abundance. But it starts with the mindset of understanding that we are more than not just adequate, not just enough, but more than enough. That's a concept that I think a few of us need to grasp a little harder with both hands, perhaps. You can find all the details out and find out how this whole thing works because it's a virtual event. It is all day on that Saturday, and it is going to be an absolute blast. We have a beautiful digital bag for you of goodies worth lots. We have all kinds of things, handouts, hot seats. It's a really full day. savingdinner.com/bloom. Bloom. That's where you're going to find all the information, right? I know you want to join us. Hello, Chris. It's so good to see you. That's the other thing. Let's see. What else do I have to tell you about? Let me see. StreamYard. Okay, right here. Our Etsy shop. You know, guys, our Etsy shop is thebomb.com. Everything Full Bloom that you would want. All the swag that you would want. T-shirts, hoodies, all kinds of cuteness. Overflowing with Amber's brilliant design work, by the way, and we are thrilled with it. So check it out at savingdinner.com/Etsy. That'll get you right into the shop. Go get your gear. It's crazy, especially if you're going to go to Full Bloom. You want to show up in Full Bloom gear. Quote of the week. It's a great one. And if you are a gratitude practicer, you understand exactly what this means. There are two kinds of gratitude. The sudden kind we feel for what we take, and the larger kind we feel for what we give. Isn't that the truth? Have you noticed that? Of course. Of course. That's how it works. That's how gratitude is. It is a beautiful give and take. It is an ebb and flow. That's what we love about it. Anyway, that's what we have for you today in all the announcements. Ta-da! Done, done, and done. So as we wrap up this week, we've been talking about emotions. How do they impact you? How emotions change your body's chemistry, and how emotions are they're temporary. They don't last forever. They come by and through us like a wave. You think about ocean waves, we anticipate them, we see them, and then we see how big they are, and then we see how little they become. That's exactly what an emotion is. It gives us feelings. It is interesting how all of this works. And today we're going to discuss the most complex of the whole batch of feelings, and that's anxiety. What happens with anxiety is, and you all know this if you've, pinkies up if you've experienced this. I know I have. We have feelings of tension, worried thoughts. We get physical changes in our bodies. Do you know it can impact your blood sugar? Did you know that? It's true. And it's more than just feeling stress or feeling worried. It's beyond that. Because anxiety involves a sense of fear, a sense of dread. It's anticipating what is to come, and not in a good way. So sometimes it's in response to an event or an experience that you've had or whatever. And you might even perceive it as being dangerous or threatening, or somehow, is going to harm you in some way. But we have to look at this because anxiety oftentimes is something that our minds take a little anthill and turn it into a mountain. We all do this, right? We all do this to some degree. But we have to look at why do we do this, and what are the repercussions of living with anxiety instead of quelling it. So number one is that it can cause some physical health issues. I mean, such things as adrenal burnout and heart disease, digestive problems, and even a weakened immune system. It impacts you. It impacts you. Do you know why? Because every single cell of your body is listening to you. Every single cell. Remember the lady that I found on TikTok that I shared her little song with you? This woman had been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer and was not given a whole lot of hope, and was given, like, we're going to do this surgery, we're going to do this chemotherapy, we're going to do this, and you have like a 5% chance of living. That was her thing. And then she just said, no, thank you to all of it. And she started on this journey of singing this little song of how every little cell in her body is happy. Joe Dispenza talks about this in all of his books on how our body is always listening. Our bodies respond. Our bodies respond. The chemistry changes. And this is the repercussion, the physical health thing. So maybe if we counter all of this stuff with every little cell in my body is happy, every single little cell in my body is fine, every single cell in my body is healthy. Remember the song? Sing it. We can sing that to ourselves and we can calm ourselves down just a wee little bit. The other thing is mental health disorders. We know about this. Anxiety disorders can co-occur with other mental health disorders like depression or substance abuse. So what if we look at this and we say, this is the thing that's happening, and this is the thing that I don't want in my life, right? This anxiety disorder. I don't want it to become this anxiety experience, this anxiety episode. I do not want to be diagnosed with a disorder or whatever. We have an opportunity to always do an intervention, if you will, on how we feel and what's going on. We do not have to be led around by our emotions, including anxiety. And I mention this because, we get the information that's out there and the things that I read, and it's like we're completely out of control and under the spell of this stuff. Is it true? I don't know that it's necessarily 100% on point. I do know there's nothing wrong with seeing a health professional about anxiety disorders, anxiety, etc. However, I do know that we need to understand that we can take charge of our bodies and that we have the right, we have the ability, and we have the right, if we have the right mindset, to start going into these things and addressing them slightly differently. We don't have to always go and have a doctor standing there with a prescription pad ready to numb us out and take us out. And I'm sorry, I know that's not a popular opinion, but I don't understand how when we have an anxiety attack, how that, or rather, I shouldn't say an anxiety attack, but when we are in the place of anxiety being a part of what we are, we need to take a little step back and just take a look at what's going on really here. Does that make sense? In other words, is this a chronic situation that's happening all the time, or is this just my thoughts running wild? There's nothing wrong with doing these kind of assessments, by the way. That doesn't mean that you're not going to see a doctor or you're not going to get taken care of or whatever. It just means that having this mindfulness a part of your assessment is going to give you a whole lot more control and make you feel a little bit better about what's going on. Years and years ago, I lived with chronic anxiety attacks. And all I got from my doctor was, well, we've got this prescription and that prescription. And I did take one. And I remember just feeling like I was walking through my life numb with fuzz all around it. You know what it reminded me of? If you ever saw the Doris Day show in the 60s, every time they fix on Doris Day's face, which was at that point starting to age, it was like they put Vaseline around the lens of the camera. I felt like everything had a Vaseline swirl to it. I didn't feel like myself. And for the time, and I was also battling depression, and for the time, it was helpful, but it's not a cure. It's not a cure. It's a coping mechanism. And all I'm saying is, are there better ways to cope? Are there other ways to cope? Are there ways to cope that are within our grasp? Because my goal in life, my mission on this planet, is to see women feeling empowered, in control of their lives, and stop being led around by whatever the diet culture says, whatever, don't get me started on the patriarchy. Well, it's there, y'all. We have to acknowledge that. it's all of these different things can have great influence on us, especially if you were raised by a mother who was a hand wringer. She's going to have an influence. That is an influence also on your body. But what this all does is that if you are living with this anxiety type stuff, it gives you a decreased quality of life, right? You don't enjoy the joy and the joyful times as much. It makes it difficult on your relationships, puts a strain on them. It can impinge on your performance at work or at school or whatever it is, and maybe you even don't enjoy the leisure activities that you used to enjoy, like arts and crafts and whatever else your enjoyment was about. I think about these things because I know what it feels like to be like that, but I also know there was a turning point in my life where I made a decision that I'm not going to allow for this anymore. Does that mean that we have that kind of power in our lives? I don't know the answer to that. I just know the answer to what I did in my own life, and I know that anxiety happens. It happens. And since I made all of that, and since I got off the medication I was on and all of that stuff, I will tell you that the thing that really was interesting to me was the anxiety episodes went down and down and down. I started taking supplements. By the way, your B complex, that's your best bet. B12, extra B12, yes, please. Are you taking your fish oil? We have Biomega 3X. Are you taking that every day? You should be, because this works on your brain, because that's where it all starts. So when we are giving our brains what they need, it helps a lot. And there's other things that we can do. So there's a science between overcoming anxious thoughts, and it involves understanding the neurobiology of anxiety, because there is a neurobiology there. And when we have an overreactive system, because that's what happens when we have anxiety attacks, we need to start looking at what can help. And one of those things is cognitive behavioral therapy. Basically, that's just code for being very mindful. That's what it is. Mindfulness, of course, certain medications. The point is that you want to rewire these pathways, and we can. We can. That's how flexible your brain is, and that's how flexible you can be when you make a decision to go forward in that way. That makes sense? I keep asking you if that makes sense. I'm trying really hard to not tread over the medical profession. And I'm also trying to, right now, I'm trying to keep this very, very difficult equilibrium. I'm also trying to empower you and say that we don't have to necessarily be, at our wit's end with anxiety. And I'm not talking about, constant anxiety attacks, of course. So we can unlearn anxiety if it was a learned thing. A lot of us grew up in homes where this was part of what happened, and how a parent or both reacted by becoming mindful. And that mindfulness that's part of cognitive behavioral therapy. It's also part of a mindfulness practice. It's also part of just being present and noticing things in your life. Because when we start to notice and we start to document and start putting things in our journal, we can start to see the triggers of what is happening and how it's happening in our lives. What triggers this? What makes it worse? What helps? How can we be our own expert on our own bodies? Well, I've got 5 things for you. Number 1 is to practice mindfulness meditations, because what that does is it focuses you on the here, on the now, not on the future. Because what is anxiety based? Usually on the future. We have to be future minded, but not to such an extent that it screws up our present day. We don't want to be doing that, because then we miss out on the moments. We miss out on being with our loving families and friends and our communities. We miss out on all of that. So practicing a mindfulness meditation, it's a simple thing that you can do 10 minutes a day in the morning. It works. It just brings you in, it helps you to center, and it helps you to breathe. And by the way, breathing is another one of those things that you can do. Box breathing is something that Navy SEALs do. They breathe in for 4, they breathe out for 4. Use your nose. In, out, in, out. Make a box like so. Take another breath and do it again. And you should notice that this absolutely 100% affects your body's chemistry, which in turn affects anxiety, right? So it's a good one. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a form of therapy that helps you to recognize what's going on and make the changes of your thought patterns that's causing this anxiety in the first place. We just call it mindfulness, but cognitive behavioral therapy will take you deeper into it, right? And working with a good cognitive behavioral therapist will really help a lot. Big time, especially if you're really suffering through this kind of thing. It's a good one. The other one that I have is like one of the best things for me when I was going through this, and it's what got me out of having to take that medication. It's what got me out of my depression, and that is exercise. Because endorphins fight depression and anxiety better than any medication on the planet. And you can look that up. You can Google that. You know, we have things. SAMe, we have that in our shop. This is a type of enzyme that affects the pathways in your brain, and it knocks out depression and puts you in a happy place and a happy mood. And it's also good for your joints. I have been taking SAMe 400 milligrams every single morning, probably for the last 20 or more years. If I went back and looked at it, I could tell you more precisely, but I would not be without it. It has made such an incredible difference in my life. And by the way, SAMe is something that you can buy here. You need to buy it. You don't have to get it from me. Go ahead if you want to. I wouldn't mind. But you can buy it pretty much any health food store. But don't ever buy it in a jar. It is completely unstable. And it needs to be in those nitrogen flushed push pack pill things. Absolutely 100%. Don't waste your money otherwise. Okay? Really important. You start with 200 milligrams. You work up to 400 milligrams if 200 isn't enough for you. But, you know, joints and mood, hello? Yes, I'm there for it. The other thing is an anti-inflammatory diet. Sugar, processed foods, sodas, chips, garbage food, all of that, it exacerbates it all because it's inflammation. And what do you think anxiety is? That is an inflammatory way of thinking, of making your body react. This emotional flood of just gritting your teeth. And lastly is adequate sleep. And let's remember what adequate sleep is. It's not just the quantity of the sleep that you're getting, it's the quality of the sleep that you're getting. And you want to make sure that you're in bed to enjoy the healing process of the circadian rhythm between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. That's the magic time. This is when all the night owls are up, by the way. They're missing out on having their healing done in your body. This is so critically important. I'll tell you, our bedtime, last night we went to bed at 10:30 and I was just so tired, drag my knuckles to the bed. But my bedtime is 9:30. I'm out 10:45 by 9:45. And then, you know, I can tell the difference. You will too. And that will make a difference on how it impacts you mentally, physically, and especially with anxiety. So there are some unusual ways that I think are really fun for you to start handling anxiety. If you have an issue with anxiety, I'm going to challenge you to try a couple of these things. The first one is art therapy. Did you know that? Drawing, painting, sculpting, all of these can help manage stress and reduce anxiety. They've got the science to prove it too, because it's drawing yourself into an act, putting your mind and focus on one activity and creating beauty out of what was formerly nothing. So that's a lovely thing. Number 2 is pet therapy. I'm telling you, my Lincoln dog is a pet therapist. When I sit there and I stroke his little head and I tell him how pretty he is and rub his ears and have him nuzzle at me, doesn't that feel good? It also calms you down and brings you into that center place that we all long for. And the last one's called forest bathing. Ever hear of that? Well, basically it just means get out in nature and enjoy it. You know, I was on my paddleboard the other day, just right out into the middle of the lake, paddling out there. Good upper body workout, but just being able to feel the water slap against the paddleboard and to being floating out there. I felt light and it was effortless and easy and fun. And I just got to look all around at where I lived and just had a moment of gratitude and a moment of just sincere, great appreciation. Anxiety doesn't live with that kind of thought. So let's get ourselves out into nature and enjoy it. Earth, take your shoes off and let the grass be underneath your feet. Do all of these things with the intention of understanding that you are more connected to yourself than some guy standing there with a prescription pad. Just saying. And not that you don't necessarily not need that kind of help, but the first line of defense is what you can do and how you can address these things. Because no one wants to live with anxiety, not a one. It's no fun. And it's one of the biggest emotions that causes a lot of stress and problems. So let's start then with taking care of what's going on the end of our forks and what we're drinking. Let's take care of that sleep. Let's get that exercise that we need. Get out in nature, journal, meditate. Dang, that sounds like a vibrant woman to me. Does anxiety have any place with that kind of a lifestyle? I say no. What do you think? Alrighty then, we're done. There's the week. Wrapped up, put a bow on it, the whole 9 yards. What do you think? I hope it was helpful. I hope it was of service to you. Next week, we're going to be digging into something else completely different. I don't know exactly what it is, but I do know that if you missed the announcements, there's an announcement page that you can go and get all the links, get the deals, all the other stuff. It's at savingdinner.com/announcements. And that's our show. Thanks for joining me. I will see you on Monday for Motivational Monday. Peace be with you. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.